Hello everybody and welcome back to the second video of our series of watercolor painting activities. Now today, for this video, we are going to paint this really cool image where we have lines of watercolor paint that make it look like there's a 3D object within the painting. So today I'm going to show you how to make a hand on our picture. And we're going to make this really cool effect where it looks like there's a 3D object within our painting. So without further ado, let's hop right in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So the trick with this is we are going to take 4 colors and we are going to paint thin horizontal lines across our paper. And the trick in order to get the 3D effect is to paint as if we're going up and around our 3D object. That is how we make the 3D hand, in this case, stand out. So, without further ado, let's get started. I first highly recommend that you gain some sort of protection from the surface that you are painting on. Today we are going to be painting all the way to the edges. And so in order to prevent you painting on your table or desk or whatever surface you're using, I would highly recommend that you get your paper towels or newspaper, whatever you have around the house to have behind your actual painting paper so that you can protect your surface from getting paint on it. Alright, so first step. We are actually going to go ahead and trace our hand onto our painting paper. Now, I recommend you use pencil because a pen would be too dark. Now, I say that because in this activity, you are totally free to use whatever colors you would like. However, I would strongly recommend that you use lighter colors because it makes the 3D image stand out more. And with those lighter colors, I recommend using pencil. And as you trace, go ahead, put your hand on the paper, and as you begin to trace, do not press down too hard, or else the pencil will go ahead and stand out over your watercolors. Even after painting over that pencil, the pencil will still show up. So, in order for you guys to go ahead and see what I mean, I am going to go ahead and trace my hand just a little bit darker than it needs to be. As you go ahead and trace your hand right now, I would say to definitely just lightly use the pencil and lightly trace your hand. Do not press down too hard, but just go ahead and calmly and softly go ahead, use your pencil and trace your hand. Just like that. So I already have my hand traced onto our paper. So now we're gonna go ahead and start painting. So for this picture, we are just only going to use our thin brush. We have both a broad brush and a thin brush. For this activity, we are going to use our thin brush. So, let's go ahead and choose our first color. I'm going to go ahead and choose red. And although, as I said before, that you would want to choose lighter colors, and red may not seem such a lighter color, in watercoloring, once you paint red onto the paper, it lightens up quite a bit. It almost looks pink sometimes. So, for my first color, I'm going to go ahead and use red. So, as before, we go ahead and dip our paintbrush into the water, our water in a cup right here, and we are going to go ahead, take the water and go ahead and just mix the pigment in the tray with that water so we can get that nice watercolor effect. So now that we have our red ready to go, we're going to go ahead and begin painting on the very top part of our paper. And when you're doing this, you're just going to go smoothly across and go ahead and just go right across just like that. Now, in order for your hand to stand out the best way it can, I recommend painting pretty thin lines. As you can see, this line is just barely touching the top, and it is not very thick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep going with drawing our using the red. So I'm going to gain some more red on my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to think, okay, I'm going to put 4 colors total in a pattern: red, yellow, blue, green, just as an example. Red, yellow, blue, green, red, yellow, blue, green, and so on and so forth till we get to the bottom of our paper. So we have the first one right here, which is red, and then we're going to have yellow, blue, green, and then we're going to start over at red again. Basically, all I'm saying is we're not going to go ahead and use the red and paint right under the red stripe we already have painted, but we're going to leave just a little bit of room and go ahead and paint another red stripe horizontally across our paper like this. If your painted lines and horizontal, like all the way across, if it does not look perfect, it is totally fine. It does not have to be anywhere near perfect. Just make sure that you leave, I say, about 1 inch of space between your red lines as we go down. So let's go ahead and we're going to keep doing that until we get all the way to the bottom of our paper. Remember that you may need to re-dip your paintbrush into the water and then mix it around in the red tray. And once you do that, feel free to do it as much as you need to until we keep getting our red paint on our brush, and go ahead and do the same thing. Now I'm going to try and leave the same amount, I'm going to try and take the same amount of space between these 2 red lines and make it the same between this red line and the next one I am about to paint. Now the spacing does not have to be perfect. Just go ahead and try your best and it will look perfectly fine. So do not be worried about how straight your lines are, about how even your spacing is between each stripe. Just go ahead and draw lightly across, just like so. Okay, so far we have 3 red lines. As you can see, the spacing is already just not perfectly even, but that's totally okay. And now what we're going to do is, well, we're going to do the same thing. However, it's going to get just a little bit trickier with our traced out hand that we have on our paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the red paint once more, and we're going to go ahead and begin drawing with the same spacing a 4th red line. And okay, stop right here. As you can see, now we already have a traced out finger in the way. So what do? As I said before, we are going to act as if we are going up and over a 3D object. So if you just wait one moment, I will show you what I mean. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to take my paint. I'm going to paint all the way up to the edge of the pencil, and I'm going to go up and over just like that. I'm making a kind of little lump in the middle of my line, and that is what I'm going to do. So now, as I go up and over, I'm going to draw straight across again. Make sure that I'm going back to making a horizontal line. Now I stopped here once more because, as you can see, I have another traced out finger that I need to go up and over. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go up and over just like that. And then I'm going to continue drawing my horizontal line, just like so. You can see I have one more finger to go, so I'm going to go up and over just like that. And then I'm going to continue painting my red horizontal line. Alright, so as you can see from afar, it looks like we have just a horizontal line with little bumps in it, and that's perfectly fine because we are going to repeat the same process for the next three colors. When we're done with the red, we're going to do the same thing, and eventually it's going to give that 3D effect. So let's go ahead and continue doing the same thing. So I'm going to try and make even spacing, and I'm going to go ahead and begin to draw horizontally until I reach a traced out finger. At that point, I'm going to go ahead and draw up and over. Now, I will say that if you want a better effect with your 3D hand on your flat surface, you want to go up and over quite a bit. So as you can see here, oh, I did not mean to do that, that's totally fine. So as you can see here, you have a kind of smaller bump right here versus this one right here, which is much more pronounced, which goes much higher. And that is just going to give us a more defined 3D look. Basically, it's going to make your hand look better, and it's going to make it easier to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue drawing this line until I keep going to the next finger. Once I do that, I'm going to go up and over until we reach the end of that, and then the same exact thing over this one until we go ahead and draw the rest of it out in a straight horizontal line, just like that. Alright, there you go. As you can see, I accidentally painted a little mark on a place I did not try to do so, but that's totally fine. If you guys accidentally have a little bit of blue here or a little bit of green there, it's totally fine. It will still look great, and I'm sure it will work out perfectly fine. So I'm going to do the same thing and go ahead, draw the line, go up and over like so. Alright, up and over like that. More up and over. And one more time. Just like so. So, as you can see, so far I have my traced out hand, and I am painting around the traced out hand. I'm painting straight when there is no pencil marking, and once I reach, for example, this finger right here, I'm going up and over just like so, and I'm going to keep doing that. And once we keep doing that with the rest of the colors, it's gonna look really, really cool. So let's keep doing the same thing. So as we get here, as you notice, it's going to be the bigger part of our hand, and the same thing, we're going to end up doing the same thing pretty much. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up and over and just go straight across like so. So what I did was I increased our height, so I made a straight horizontal line. Then I went up and continued going straight across. Now the whole trick is to make, it's going to be the same line, except this part of the line is going to be higher up than this one. And we're going to do that across the whole base of our hand until we reach the end, where we're going to go back down to the same level this part of our red line was. In doing so, we're going to continue and draw a horizontal line across just like so. As you can see, we have our thumb right here, so I'm just going to go up and over like that and continue painting to the edge of our paper. So as you can see, my lines are not very pretty, they're not very straight, but that's totally okay. It does not have to be perfect, it's going to look great at the very end. So, I'm going to continue with our red. Continue going across. Again, we reach the broad part of our hand, so we're just going to go up. And instead of going back down, we're going to go straight across like so. All the way until we reach the end. Then we're going to go back down and then continue going horizontally across to the edge of our paper. Alright, let's continue with our red. Alright, so here we are. We have finished our red horizontal lines. Now we have our next 3 colors to do. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with our red stripes. And we're just going to pick one color and continue going all the way down until the bottom edge of our paper. So let's go ahead and do so. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take our thin brush. We are going to consistently use our thin brush, and I'm going to go ahead and get all of that red pigment off of it, because the next color I'm going to do is going to be yellow. Now, you guys can choose any colors that you want. You can even use only 3 stripes, or 3 different colors for your stripes. You can use 5 different colors for your stripes. It's totally up to you. You can customize this as much as you want. However, I again recommend that you use lighter colors, as I have found that lighter colors stand out better during this specific project with our 3D hand. So let's go ahead and get started with that yellow. I'm going to dip in my small paintbrush into the water, and I'm going to go ahead and mix it around the yellow pigment container, just like so. Get all that yellow out. As you paint your stripes, don't be afraid to dip it back into the water and gain more paint. Eventually you'll be using up all the painted water that you have in each circle. So don't be afraid to, as you're drawing your lines, as you're painting, to go back and regain all of that yellow pigment in your water. So let's go ahead and take our yellow on our brush, and I have found that the easiest way to do this is to take our next color and just paint another thin stripe all the way, right underneath our previous stripe. So the previous color I did was red, so I'm going to take my next color, which is going to be yellow, and I'm going to paint a thin yellow stripe right underneath our red one, just like so. Again, this does not have to be a perfectly straight line. As you can see, my lines are definitely not very straight. However, this is perfectly fine and the same effect will still occur. So as you can see, I drew my first yellow line. Now I'm going to do the same thing for every line going down. And I'm going to go ahead, just slowly go across. You do not have to rush it. You do not have to go fast. You can just calmly and simply just go straight across, and you should be perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and paint. Go ahead, paint to the edge of the paper. You do not have to paint to the edge of the paper. However, I think it looks best when you do so, and thus the reason why I recommend having either paper towels or newspaper underneath your paper that you're painting on to avoid getting paint on your surface, which this is watercolor paint, so it should not stain or anything, but best to prevent it. Alright, keep going across. Just like so. As I said before, you may need to keep dipping in your paintbrush and regaining the color in that palette. And keep going across, just like so. I'm going to start the next line, and I'm going to go ahead and stop right where the pencil starts to be drawn, right where my finger right here is being traced. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right here where you can see a very light colored tracing of one of my fingers. So just like we did with the red, we're going to do the exact same thing with the yellow. We're going to follow and go up and over, then horizontal, then up and over, then horizontal, with all of our fingers and our parts that we want to be projected in a 3D image. So, but however, remember, alongside of this, we are going to be taking our next color, which for me is yellow, and we're going to continue to do that right underneath our red. So basically, you're going to trace and do the exact same thing you did with the red color, and do it with the yellow one, or whatever color you decide to do next. You're going to do the exact same thing, except do it right underneath it, and get an effect just like that. And we're going to continue and do the exact same thing all the way until we get to the bottom of our paper. So let's go ahead, continue. As you can see, keep in mind, as you can see, my pinky finger right here, which was traced, is now showing up and getting in the way of our yellow color. Now, as you can see, the red is a straight horizontal line, and then it starts to make bumps in the road. It starts to go up and over the tracings. As you can see here, my finger is being traced right here. However, even though my red line is not exactly traced right here, and that is totally fine. All we're going to do is we're just going to do the same thing. However, we're going to use a very slight up and over motion. So as you can see, it is a horizontal, then it goes just very slightly up and over, and then it continues on. Even though our red did not do so, we're going to do so with our yellow because of the tracing in pencil you see right here. So we're going to continue and do the same thing. As you can see with the next one, I have a big up and over with the red, so I'm going to do the same thing with my yellow, just like that. Up and over, then horizontal, then up and over, and then horizontal. You do not have to be super precise. And what I mean by that, do not be afraid to get a little bit of yellow on your red or a little bit of red on your yellow. It is totally fine if that happens, and sometimes it even looks nicer when a few of these lines mix together. So let's continue, get some water, color in, get that pigment from the tray into the water, and then continue drawing our lines like so. Let's continue like that, up and over, up and over, and up and over, and straight across like so. So right here, as we get to the broader part of our hand, the back of our hand right here, we're going to do the same thing as we did with the red. We are going to go up, and instead of going back down, we're going to go straight across and go ahead and follow the red line that we drew just a few minutes ago until we reach the end of our hand right here. We're going to go back down just like the red does and continue going horizontally. As you can see, our thumb right here is going up and over, so we're going to do the same thing with the yellow and then continue and follow the line. So just like that, we're going to continue and do the same thing for the rest of our yellow stripes across, basically until we reach down here. So let's go ahead and continue with our painting. Just go straight across. You do not have to press too hard down. You don't have to try and do it quickly. Go ahead and take your time. You can pause this video. Just take your time, relax, and follow your red line that you did before with your new color that you chose. So as you can see, as we get down here, my lines are quite crooked. Now, as I said before, this is perfectly fine. All we have to do is take our colors and go ahead and make the lines, make the stripes thicker, make them broader, make them take up just a little bit more room. Even though this may look a little bit weird at first, you don't have to worry. It'll look just fine once we continue adding the rest of the next two colors. So let's go ahead and paint like so. Let's go across. And there we go. We have finished our second color. We have two more to go. And fortunately, we are just going to do the exact same thing as we did with these first two colors. For me, I'm going to choose a color blue, specifically this blue right here. And I'm going to go ahead I'm gonna first wipe off all the pigment from all the yellow pigment from the brush. Of course, if you guys accidentally mix a few colors here, that's totally fine. However, just go ahead, clean it off, and you will keep the same vibrant color that you were using before. Go ahead and mix in the water with the blue. And now we're going to go ahead, get that blue in our brush, and we're going to continue painting our beautiful paper. And we're going to go ahead, and go ahead and draw straight across like that. We are going to continue to paint our blue line across just like so. And just like with the yellow, where when we were painting the yellow, we followed the red lines and we painted the yellow right under our painted red line. We're going to do the same thing. So with our blue, or whatever your third color that you decide to choose, we're going to paint right underneath our yellow, or whatever color you just painted right before this one. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, my lines aren't perfect, and that's okay. Sometimes your lines may even mix in, like the blue may mix in with the yellow a little bit, and that's totally fine. It works just as well. So I'm gonna keep going just like this, just straight across. And right here, as you can see, we begin to reach the tip of one of our fingers. So we're just gonna do the same as we did with this one right here, where the one above it was straight and we still had to take the yellow and go up and over. We're gonna take the blue and go up and over, and it's going to mix in with the yellow just a little bit. It's also gonna leave only a little bit of room for our fourth color, and that's totally fine. It'll work out just fine. It'll still look really good, and you guys do not have to worry about that. So we're going to keep going. Go ahead, take your time. You do not have to go fast. You do not have to try and keep up with me or at all. You can pause the video, you can take your time, you can take a break, and then you can come back. It's totally up to you. I'm going to continue my blue horizontal stripes all the way down to the end of my paper. So as you can see, previously my lines were pretty crooked, and yours may or may not be as well. But as I said before, this is perfectly fine because it'll look just the same. All we have to do is continue to account for it. So for example, right here, as you can see, I have 3 colors, and I know I'm only going to use one more color. I'm only going to paint one more colored stripe. So what I'm going to have to end up doing is go ahead and paint my blue stripe right here just a little bit thicker, just a little bit more broad, to account for that space that I made in all my crooked lines. And even though this may not sound good, it is totally fine. This will happen all the time. We cannot make perfect stripes or anything. So you guys do not have to worry about making perfect shapes, making perfect lines or whatever. It is totally fine. You're painting whatever colors you choose, how many you ever decide to do. will look just as great and will look just as pretty. So once more, as you can see, I have a lot of space left for just one more color. So I'm going to go ahead, take and some extra blue and make this specifically right here just a little bit broader, just add a little bit more blue just to even it out, and go ahead and it will still look just fine. You do not need to worry about inconsistencies. You do not need to worry about being perfect. It all will work out. So, being said that, we have one last line. Well, for our blue color at least. We have one more line right beneath the last yellow color we have right here. And we're gonna go ahead, paint all the way across, just like so. It's okay if your blue mixes with your yellow. It's okay if your yellow mixes a little bit with your red. It all is totally fine, and it will still look great. Alright, so there we go. We have 3 out of 4 colors to go. We only have one more stripe color to go. And for this example for today, I decided that I'm going to go ahead and go with green. More specifically, this lighter green right here. I have 2 greens in this palette right here. I'm going to choose the lighter one. So let's go ahead, take our paper towel, and get off that blue from our brush, just like so. And then we're going to dip our brush in our water and go ahead and mix that water with the green, the light green pigment in our palette right here. Go ahead, get all that pretty green color in, and we are pretty much all set for painting our last colored stripe. So now what we're going to do is fill in all of the white space that we have with this green color. So for example, this top spot right here, as you can see, you have a big white stripe. We're going to go ahead and fill that in with our green. Draw a straight line across. Of course, this line is not going to be perfectly straight, but it all works out. It will all still look totally fine. It'll look great. So let's go ahead and paint there. Just like so. Alright, so now we get to fill in all the white coloring with our 4th color. Now, technically what you can do is go ahead and leave that color white. It will probably still look just great. It'll look fine. As you can see, you can still tell there is a 3D shape even with the white space left open. However, for this example, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that every single last bit of this picture, of this paper, is colored in with a nice, beautiful coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of that stripe. I'm going to go ahead and start painting this one right here. Alrighty. As you can see, I may need to go up and over just a little bit. That's totally fine. It works out just great. If you see that there is not much room in between your red and blue, like right here, that is totally fine. You can just go ahead and paint right there anyway. It works out still, and it'll still look great. Same thing with this one right here. There is almost no room for that green, but I'll still paint it on there because it'll still look great. So let's continue painting all the way here. As you can see, I mixed a little bit of my green with the blue, and that's totally fine. to continue that same up and over motion as I did with the rest of my colors. So I'm going to go up and over like so. Then I'm going to make a straight horizontal line, then continue going up and over, and then continue making a straight horizontal line to the edge, to the right edge of our paper. Alright, there we go. So it's looking pretty good. You can tell that it looks like it's a 3D shape. Is kind of almost popping out of the paper, and it looks very cool. I like doing things like this. It's very, very nice. So let's continue up and over, so up and over, like so. So you can see that little red spot I accidentally painted from earlier is still here, and that's fine. You can just paint right over it. It'll still look okay. Little inconsistencies don't look bad at all. It gives a uniqueness to your specific painting, and there's nothing wrong with that. Alrighty. So let's continue. And as you can see right here, we have almost the hardest part of the hand to paint in this specific painting. It gets a little bit weird, but it's not too bad. We're just gonna go up and over like so, and make a very short horizontal area, just like that. And go up and over like that. And as you can see, we're just basically going to have to fill in the up and over like bumps on our straight line. So it's not really a thin straight line anymore, but that is going to be what we're going to have to do for that part of the hand, because that is a little bit of a weird part to paint over, but it totally works just fine, and it looks totally great. So let's continue. Go ahead and let's go ahead and just paint the rest of our green stripes. Alright, so we are on our very last white space to paint in. We are almost there. Let's go ahead and paint our last green stripe and our last color that we have for this entire piece. And there we go. That basically sums it up. Alright everybody, that is going to be it for this video. I thank you guys so much for taking your time and checking out these activities. If you guys would like to see more, go ahead and go on the channel and watch the rest of this series. So I thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.